As the great Yogi Berra once said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. For that reason, I've always been a huge fan of goal setting. Whether it was with my academics, my legal career, and now with wine, I've found goal setting to be invaluable. So with the year drawing to a close, I'm going to check in and see how I did with respect to last year's wine goals, and also set 9 new wine goals for 2026. If you have any wine goals for next year, please let me know in the comments below. One of my most important goals each year relates to wine travel. You learn so much more by visiting a region, touring the winery, seeing the vineyard, and speaking with winery representatives than you do by simply reading about a region or trying the wines from wherever you live. As they say, what grows together goes together, so you'll undoubtedly have some of the very best food and wine pairings when you're enjoying the local cuisine with the wines. Of course, during my travels, I also look for some special bottles that I can take home with me to add to my collection. So one of my recurring wine goals is to travel to at least 5 different wine regions each year, with at least 1 or 2 of those wine regions being new regions that I've never visited previously. Last year I succeeded quite well with this goal. I visited 9 different wine regions, 5 of which were first-time visits. Specifically, I visited Bordeaux, Napa Valley, Santorini, Rioja, Crete, Nausa, Livermore Valley, Ribera del Duero, and Rueda. Since I've been collecting wine for about 20 years or so now, there's a number of wines in my collection that are getting close to their peak or perhaps a little bit past peak. So for the past few years, one of my recurring goals has been to remain vigilant and do what I can to make sure that I'm drinking down wines that appear on my Time to Drink Up report on Cellar Tracker, and otherwise making selections based on inventory management. The problem is, however, when you combine the wines that I taste for evaluation purposes with the wines that I was tasting just to drink down my inventory and stay on top of things, it started to feel like drinking wine was a chore, and I wasn't enjoying it as much as I should. Also, this past year, we have unfortunately lost a couple members of our wine tasting community in Dallas, one of whom was about my age. So that definitely made me rethink this approach to my wine consumption. So for this year, I'm going to do things very, very differently. Instead of worrying about controlling my inventory, I'm going to just drink whatever the heck I want and what sounds good that particular evening. Wine goal number 3 for 2026 is a bit of a corollary to wine goal number 2. I don't want those wines that are getting old and perhaps a little bit past peak to go to waste, so I will also plan to do a cellar purge of sorts in the coming year. This means that I'll look for wines that I'm no longer interested in enjoying personally, or at least not in drinking in the next year or so, and I'll look for opportunities for other people to use them. Perhaps I'll sell them, or donate them to a charitable cause, or maybe host some sort of an event and provide the wine. Of course, this cellar purge will also help with my storage space crisis, which remains an ongoing issue and which brings me to wine goal number 4 for 2026. The next goal is to consume or otherwise dispose of many more bottles of wine than I purchase. I know that this is also a goal for a number of my viewers. It's certainly been on my list for the past few years now. I've actually done fairly well with this goal for the past couple years, in that I had a deficit each year, but I was still so close to even that I didn't make a material dent in my storage crisis. So there's still boxes all over the house that haven't been put away yet, and worse yet, my primary wine cellar has stacks of boxes of wine in it, such that it's very, very difficult to get to the wines that I'd like to drink sometimes. The past 6 weeks or so, I've made pretty good progress on this goal for 2025 since I haven't been traveling. But the problem is I travel about a third of the time, and when I'm traveling, I'm not able to reduce the wine in my cellar nearly as much as when I'm at home. So for that reason, I'm going to maximize my opportunities to travel with wine and use wine when I'm gone, and also make sure that I make a material dent in my storage crisis by running a deficit of at least consuming or disposing of 100 more bottles than I purchase for the next year. Wine goal number 6 is to explore and visit an emerging wine region or country. Last year, I visited Greece, And in addition to visiting Santorini, which is a bit more established, I also visited emerging wine regions in Crete and also Nausa. I learned a lot about both of these regions and was able to meet with a number of talented winemakers and producers. I discovered a lot of exciting wines, many of which I shared on this channel. So for next year, I'll definitely make sure that some of the wine regions or countries that I visit are emerging wine regions and not just wine regions that I haven't visited before. My next wine goal for 2026 is to continue to conduct regular group wine tastings. Ideally, I would do at least one a quarter, but preferably a little bit more than that. These are always some of the most rewarding and enjoyable wine nights of the year. There's nothing like experiencing special wines with good friends and also drilling down and doing a comparison tasting with other like-minded individuals who are also very sophisticated wine tasters. We had some very special tastings this past year that included a 7 vintage vertical of Vieux Chateau Certain, a 4 vintage vertical of the outstanding Penfolds Grange bottlings from the 1970s and 1980s, a 1988 Gigal Lala tasting, and there was another night where we all chipped in and enjoyed the 1945 Lafite and 1978 Petrus. Of course, the other good thing about wine events like these is, in addition to the main event, everyone typically brings a nice bottle to enjoy either before or after the main tasting, if not both. So it's no surprise that many of the wines that appear in my top 25 list each year are wines from some of these tastings. But between travel schedules, family obligations, and work responsibilities, it's been extremely difficult to get the group together, and I only satisfied last year's goal because I was able to have 3 nice tastings towards the end of the year. So next year, I definitely want to be a little bit more proactive with this to make sure that I'm able to enjoy some tastings throughout the year, and ideally have at least 6 or 7 of these major tastings in 2026. My next wine goal for 2026 is to attend at least 3 major wine events. By this I mean events like the James Suckling Great Wines of the World, Wine Spectator Experience, Premier Napa Valley, and so forth. I'm a huge fan of trying wines before you buy them, and events like these allow you to taste a large number of wines from high-quality producers without having to purchase them first. In addition, I'm able to check in on a number of new releases from producers that I enjoy. Many of these events are open to both consumers and members of the trade, although sometimes they'll have different sessions for each. Last year, I was able to attend 4 or 5 of these events, and I prepared videos for this channel about most of them, and I also attended a number of smaller masterclasses locally. The next wine goal is something that I learned from a number of the tastings the past few years, the most recent example of which was the Vieux Chateau Certain tasting. We had 7 different vintages from this excellent producer between 1982 and 2015. Despite the fact that the 1982 vintage was legendary, our bottle was pristine, and it was not flawed in any way, this wine finished dead last on every single scorecard. In contrast, wines from more recent vintages like 1998, 2000, and 2009 finished as the top 3. For that reason, I've learned that I enjoy some of these wines, particularly in Bordeaux, a little bit younger than I've been enjoying them over the past few years. I think part of this is due to the fact that Bordeaux has been making better wine generally due to improvements both in the vineyard and in the winery, but also because some of the vintages now are consistently warmer, and so the fruit gets a little bit more ripe, and the vintages don't need as much age before they show their best. So I'm definitely not going to hesitate to open wines from the late 90s and early 2000s, or even from warmer vintages like 2009, 2015, 2016, and 2018 when I think it's appropriate to do so. As mentioned earlier in this video, we unfortunately lost 2 good friends in the Dallas wine scene this past year. This has driven home the point more than ever that it's extremely important to cherish those special opportunities that you have with friends and family and make sure that you make the most of them. So I'm no longer worried about preserving consecutive vintage verticals or keeping a particular bottle in my collection. The joys and memories created from tasting special bottles in your collection far outweighs the benefits of having a particular bottle sitting on your shelf. So my next wine goal for 2026 is to open that bottle, and I would absolutely encourage you to do the same. Open that bottle, share it with like-minded friends or family, and create some memories. Earlier in this video, I mentioned how impressed I was with the Naousa wine region in Greece. If you'd like to learn more about my experience there, please be sure to check out this video that's linked above.